Hello, friends, and welcome to another special edition of We're All Fine Spooky Saturday. Dun, dun, dun. This is Holly and my beautiful co-host, Carly.
Hi.
Hey, Carly. So you're bringing the spooky today. This
I know.
is your baby.
I know. I'm pretty excited. Nervous, excited, as most new mothers are.
We call it nervited.
I like that.
Nervited.
Nervited. No, I actually really enjoy that. Well, when we started doing spooky, Saturdays and stuff, this is very much in my wheelhouse. I just love strange things. Like we've talked about, Unsolved Mysteries was my favorite show growing up. I am so excited to tell you all about what we are going to talk about today. Do have a couple questions though. One, do you like Bridgerton?
I love Bridgerton, although I'm not fully up on the final season, but I did read the books, so I at least have an idea of what happens. I just haven't watched the last season, mostly because I can't find a time when my children are not wandering in and out of the room.
Honestly, super fair and good parenting. So way to go.
Yeah.
I'm super proud of you. So the mystery of it, the intrigue,
I love all of it.
anonymity. And Pretty Little Liars, this person that's, has all of this information about the town. Have you ever watched Pretty Little Liars or heard about it?
I did watch the first few episodes, but everyone was so beautiful, I felt super intimidated, so I stopped watching.
I mean, I need you to know how beautiful you are before we continue going, and that you are allowed to watch that show and not feel like you are less than. But the idea that there's this person in your community that walks among you, lives amongst the people who would be unassuming, that somehow has so much information on you, or potentially has blackmail on you, or is lying about potential blackmail is really unsettling, right? So today we are going to talk about the Circleville Letters.
Ooh.
And the way I would describe the Circleville Letters are that they are a fucked up, less fancy version of Pretty Little Liars and Bridgerton. Buckle up, because this is, so it's super, super spooky, but also just really fucking interesting because it still has not been solved.
Oh my God. I'm already loving the description of this. So I am in this. I'm in it already.
So the Circleville Letters it started in 1976, went on for years. And it was in Circleville, Ohio, which, oh my God, I'm so surprised, Holly, that you've never heard of Circleville, Ohio, she said like a liar. Because the population, as of even 2022, was less than 15,000 people.
Oh, that's pretty quaint.
Yeah, super small town, really cute, really, if you look at pictures of Circleville, it looks like what every movie has ever shown you a small town looks like.
Oh, okay.
Just a little town square and then people that distance in their houses. So the key players that you want to keep in mind during this episode are Mary Gillespie. Yeah,
okay.
Gillespie. So Mary Gillespie, her husband Ron, her Mary's brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, and his wife, Karen Sue. You're also going to want to remember the sheriff. So Mary and Ron are living a pretty normal life. It's 1976. She's a school bus driver. Ron and her were known throughout the town. They were just super average Joes. And one day, Mary receives a letter. And it's written in a font that you wouldn't normally write in. It's in block font, black ink. And it says, I know you, Mary, are sleeping with the superintendent of the school district, and you need to make sure that you out yourself. You need to tell people that you're doing this.
Oh, that's spicy.
The problem is Mary swore that she wasn't having an affair, so she had no idea where this was coming from. The letter that she received was totally anonymous. There was no postage that could be traced back to anybody. So she thought maybe it was just a mean prank, and she didn't tell anyone about it. And so she hid it in her pocket for 2 weeks, not telling anyone. And then she received an additional letter that was like, you had 2 weeks, you didn't do anything about it, I'm going to up the ante. So Mary's starting to get a little bit nervous, and then her husband Ron gets a letter. And the letter to Ron is saying, we know for a fact that your wife is sleeping with the superintendent, and she's a problem, and you're a problem, and you need to out yourselves to everyone. And if you don't do that, I will get on the CB radios all over town, and I will tell everyone everything that you two have done. And I will talk all about the affair. I will post posters all through the town. And this is a
Oh
small
my
town
God.
where like reputation means everything in a small town.
Sure.
And Mary is swearing that she has not, will not have an affair with the superintendent. She has no idea what's happening. And Ron gets really upset. Ron was known as a pretty even keel guy. He wasn't a drinker. He wasn't a gambler. He was kind of what you look for, for an average Joe. Ron and Mary decide to show the letters to Paul Freshour, so the brother-in-law, and his wife Karen Sue. And they're the only ones that they tell about this. But the letters just keep happening. And so Mary
There's more?
Oh yeah, so they're bombarded. So these letters are just constantly happening with threat after threat after threat of like outing, blackmailing, telling them what vicious, terrible people they are. And so the only people that they really told for a while were Paul and Karen. Then they went out and decided that they were going to take matters into their own hands. And so they wrote a letter, I believe, to the local newspaper. I've seen it different in different accounts. But somehow they made it known to their small community, like, this is what we're going through. None of these allegations are accurate. Let's put this to bed. Life goes on. Everything is normal for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, one day, Ron gets a phone call. And it's the person that has been sending the letters. Ron doesn't tell Mary who it is. We still don't know to this day who exactly was on the phone, and here's why. So Ron leaves the house, and while he's gone, he gets into this horrible car accident, and he actually ends up passing away. But there's some weird shit with the car accident. So remember, he wasn't a drinker at all, and Mary and family were all at the house, and they all said that Ron had nothing to drink. His blood alcohol level after the car accident was twice the legal limit.
I mean, that's a pretty decent amount of drinking.
That's your family would have to see you. And he had been socializing. It wasn't like he was in the basement by himself all day and then all of a sudden just came up. Like he was around people, and all of them said like, no, he was not consuming any alcohol. Then he also had a gun in the truck with him, and he was not known to carry a gun with him. That wasn't something that Ron was known for. It was pretty strange. The toxicology report was strange. So now the family is thinking absolutely foul play, because the gun had been fired from the time that Paul or Ron left his home, and then the car accident. He had gunpowder residue on his fingers, but there was no signs of it just discharging in the car. So something happened, but nobody knows what happened in between the time that he left his home to go and find out whoever this person was and to confront the Circleville letter writer, and when his truck had an unfortunate, kind of suspicious accident that ended in his death.
So how do we know that the phone call that he got was from the letter writer?
So he said, as he was leaving the home, he said something to the effect of, they can't get away with this anymore. I know who it is. I'll be back. But did not disclose to Mary who it was because he was in such a rush. Like, he was infuriated by whatever was said on this phone call. No one knows what it was said, but Mary said she had never seen him so upset before.
And she didn't see him take a gun with him.
Nope, she didn't see him take anything with him. But it was his gun in his truck, and it had been fired. It wasn't like he was gone for hours and hours and hours. Whatever transpired had to have happened really quickly. And it's very curious. And the sheriff of the town with the toxicology report and the coroner and all of the suspicion, still very quickly ruled Ron's death as an accident. And that was a little shady. And here's when it gets a little bit shadier. Mary and the sheriff start dating like directly after Ron's funeral.
What?
Yeah. That her and Ron were in a faithful marriage. She was a loyal wife to Ron the whole time. But that her and the sheriff got close during his death and all of the things after. And then with the sheriff wanting to help her with the letter situation, now that she was this unprotected woman, because she was still receiving letters the entire time.
Even after Ron's death?
The letters don't stop. The letters do not stop. So she's still receiving letters over and over again. It was constant. And it was also unpredictable. It wasn't like the letters were like dropped off every Monday. So it wasn't like she could prepare or just stake out the house to see who was dropping by or who was doing it. But remember, if you remember in the beginning, so Mary and the sheriff, I feel like something was going on there. Maybe the superintendent thing is real. I don't know. We don't have enough proof for or against. The superintendent swore that he also was not sleeping with Mary, but I don't know a lot of people that are like, yes, we are having affairs.
Truth.
So unless there's like full evidence, a lot of people are just going to deny, right? But remember the two people that Mary and Ron told about the letters initially. It was her brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, and Karen Sue, who's Paul's wife. Here's when it gets really interesting. The letters are continuing. Mary is now a widow. She's in a very casual relationship, is the term that was used a lot with the sheriff now. And one day, Mary and her daughter are driving down the road, and she sees this big sign that is threatening Mary's daughter's life.
A sign? Like on the side of the road?
That someone set up on the side of the road. So Mary becomes enraged. And the person that put the sign up had to have known how Mary was going to handle this. And I have a reason to say that. So Mary sees the sign, she pulls over, misses getting hit into a terrible car accident just like her husband by like inches. Goes over to dismantle the sign to rip it down. And it had been put up in a way where there was a booby trap underneath, where when somebody ripped it off, a gun was supposed to shoot the person that took it down. Like it was rigged for the bullet to hit once the sign was pulled down.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So Mary, with the help of her casual boyfriend, Mr. Sheriff Man, they see that the VIN number or the serial number on the gun is not shaved off as well as the person who built the booby trap would have hoped. So they turn it in. The serial number comes back to someone. It's Paul Freshour's gun.
What? The brother-in-law?
Yeah, the brother-in-law. Paul gets brought in and questioned. Paul is adamant that he has nothing to do with this. He has no idea why his gun got there. And he swears that his gun was lost or stolen years and years and years ago. But didn't tell anyone, didn't disclose that. I don't know if you have to like register guns that have gone missing. I don't know. But nobody knew. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, that gun has been gone forever. Well, he was then convicted of attempted murder because of this, because he did not have an alibi for the date that the sign was put up. At this point in time, him and Karen Sue were having a problem. So if he needed an alibi, she wasn't going to lie for him. And she said that he was not home. He was not at the house, so he had no alibi for the morning that the sign was put up. And it's his gun that was supposedly lost, but was never reported as lost or stolen. So he gets convicted and he goes to jail or prison. So he's in prison and the letters keep coming. The sheriff and the local police department contact the warden and say, hey, the victim of this is still receiving stuff from your prison. This inmate, Paul Freshour, needs to be put in solitary confinement. And the warden agrees. So
What?
now he cannot receive mail coming in or out. He's also denied parole because he is still, quote unquote, contacting his victim. But Paul swears it wasn't him. And the postage, now all of a sudden the letters have postage, but they're from Columbus and he's not in Columbus.
Wouldn't the prison know if he was sending letters out? I mean, I thought that stuff was checked.
It's pretty checked, but from my research that I found, what's coming in is checked way more than what's going out.
Okay.
And with our prison system being as overpopulated as it is, you're looking at like thousands and thousands and thousands of parcels every day. So he ends up in solitary and the letters are still coming. The letters are still happening, but there's no way that he's writing them now. So because of that, and because there is also new witness information that comes out years later, that there was a yellow, like, Charger, like a muscle car. I'm not good at cars, but it was a yellow Camaro. It was a yellow Camaro that was seen on the side of the road, like a couple hours before Mary had the sign. Oh, this is an important part, and I should have said this. Mary's not dead. It was attempted murder. The gun, the mechanism broke right as she lifted the sign, so
Oh,
it was a
that's
faulty
lucky.
booby trap. So Mary's super lucky because she would have died and her sister or her daughter would have seen it, which is just terrible. Because then this poor girl would have lost both of her parents to this Circleville letter situation.
Yeah, that's awful.
But yeah, so Mary survives, so that's a good thing. That's why it was attempted murder for Paul. But witnesses had never come forward before. But then all of a sudden, witnesses are like, oh no. And people that wouldn't necessarily talk to each other were like, oh no, we saw a yellow Camaro on that street at this time. And so they used that evidence and the fact that the letters were still continuing, and Paul got out of prison.
What? They just remembered this like years later?
Notice how, like, the sheriff and Mary, like, there's a lot of weird holes that the more I research, the more I have questions.
Yeah, I have questions.
It's hard to know. So Paul gets out, him and Karen Sue aren't together anymore. And then one day the letters just stop. They're just done. And still to this day, no one knows exactly who did it or how. There's lots of really interesting theories.
How long did this go on for?
I believe it was 15 years.
Whoa! 15 years of just letter
Mhm.
writing?
Mhm. Oh yeah, it was like forever. The letters stopped in 1994.
So I guess I would wanna look at who died in 1994 in the
Right.
town.
Before we get into theories, I want to read you one of the letters. One of them says, "You have been watched. Failure to comply, and you shall suffer. No one can help. No one can protect you. Obey, obey. Get Mr. Massey elected to some type of office, or you will surely pay, and the town of Circleville shall too. It is on you." Yeah, super threatening letters. And that's the thing is, like, it all
Did
started with this threat of an affair.
did
And
Mary have this
Jessica,
kinda power to, like, get someone elected?
she was a school bus driver, but then she started
What?
dating the sheriff.
Oh, so maybe
So the Circleville letter person wanted her to turn in the affair to get the superintendent pulled out. So one of the other letters starts off as, "Lady, this is your last chance to report him. I know you are a pig and will prove it and shame you out of Ohio. A pig sneaks around and meets other women's husbands behind their backs, causes families and homes and marriages to suffer." The worst letter that Ron received was very short, and it said, "You should catch them together and kill them both. I know where you live. You're pushing your luck."
Oh my god, that's so dark.
So there's so much here. And as we know, small towns, people love to talk, but
Sure.
nobody likes to come forward.
Well, because, snitches get stitches.
Right. Which which I know is an active part of your normal vocabulary.
That is.
I love that. There are a few theories
Yeah.
on who this could be. A lot of people say it definitely was Paul and that he was the sole perpetrator. The evidence of that is that he was found guilty of attempted murder after the booby trap, signed with a gun, was traced back to him. It was discovered that some believe he continued sending letters even from prison and with the help of other inmates.
How if he's in solitary confinement, nobody at the prison is noticing that this
Right.
dude is sending regular letters?
But some people are saying, and this is true, some prison guards are super corrupt. And for the right price, they'll do things. So could he have potentially been doing that? And then they just pulled it out for him or took it out for him and then sent him? It's not beyond a shadow of a doubt, right? But I
Was
don't think it
Paul
was Paul.
was Paul holding on to some serious money to be able to bribe someone like that?
I don't know. But it was like the 80s ish. So I know cigarettes were currency.
Okay.
And he might I don't know, because there's not a lot of information about Paul's life when he was in prison,
Okay.
besides the fact that the warden agreed to put him into solitary and that he was
Okay.
denied parole. So, the second theory is that it was Karen Sue.
I like that theory.
So, Karen Sue had accused her husband Paul of being the letter writer. So, after her and Paul are divorced, after he gets charged with attempted murder, she leaves him. And she actually accused him and even wrote a formal letter to the court that did help with his conviction. People aren't sure though what her motivation would be for that though. Like why send these letters for years and years and years to try to get Paul in trouble?
Well, I mean, you said that they were having problems right about the time that he gets busted. So
Yeah,
that seems like, someone's super vindictive. That
that's true.
seems, right there. And this is someone who would have inside knowledge of what's going on with Mary and Ron, whether or not that's all going down.
That's
But
true.
it just sounds, I don't know. To me, this just sounds like a Karen gone rogue. Like just
Yeah.
a nasty letter that just went super off the rails.
Yeah, but it kept going and this person had so much inside knowledge. I recommend all of you when you want to or in the right headspace to look up some of the Circleville letters because they had information about everybody. This person knew things that they shouldn't know about a lot of people in the community.
Like what?
So again, the affair knew things about the sheriff. In the letters, I can't find the exact one that I was looking for, but if I find it, I'll put it on our social medias. But one of them talks about another couple's affair, one couple having not a failed pregnancy, but some sort of like infertility issue. So would tell secrets of other people in the community that were later proven to be true that people wouldn't have unless they're a part of the community. And someone that people trusted with secrets. There also was a lot of talk about, like I said earlier, getting people elected, not messing with people, trying to get the superintendent removed. So this person wanted all of the higher players in this town to be taken down a couple of notches. Which is so that's normal, I feel like, because I think all of it I mean, we all vote for a reason. We all go to town hall meetings when we want to. We sign petitions because when we don't trust the people in power positions in our communities, we do our best to try to remove them and put people that we feel like are safe, no matter what side of the political land you're on. But this person had specific people that they were targeting, and it was all the big players. But Paul actually received a letter when he was in prison before he got out, which he also was able to use in evidence in order for him to get paroled out. And it says, "Now when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? I told you 2 years ago when we set them up, they stay set up. Don't you listen at all? No one wants you out. No one. The joke is on you. Ha, ha. Tell no one of this letter. I saw the paper. Great news. Great. The Riff loved it. Ha ha. Do you believe it now? Do you? I don't know who the Riff is.
What?
Yeah, so whoever wrote the letter was like, "Hey, listen."
Okay, so if one theory is Paul,
Mhm.
the other theory is what's her name?
Karen
Car
Sue.
Karen see, it's just a Karen. It just makes me think that so hard. Karen
Okay.
Sue. What are the other ones?
That it's, of course, just another person that still remains anonymous. Another theory is that it was a group of people, like a group of nosy Nellies that all got together that were like, "Ooh, this town's a little fucked up and we know everything about everyone. So let's start sending these letters out. We'll get Mary first, and then we'll start getting who we want where." And that they just took it too far, and that some people in the group, because the handwriting could change, but handwriting experts have said that the handwriting was different.
Hmm, okay.
So some people believe that some people in the group, like, it started as people who maybe didn't like Mary that wanted to get back at her, and then other people in the group realized what they could do with this anonymity, and that they just kept going. My theory is I actually think it's the superintendent's wife.
Yeah, where is she in this story?
She's not brought up. Some
Ooh.
articles talk about it and she's like, "No, I've never heard. No, not at all." Some have said that the superintendent and his wife had issues, but they were pretty private people. So I think it was the superintendent's wife, and here's why. In a small town, the superintendent's wife has to keep up with her reputation, right? Because this person is in charge of all of these children's education.
Sure.
So you can't make him look bad. Also, in small, I mean, you know as well as I do, when you work in a school, those kids will tell you anything.
Oh my god, that's so true. Did she
How
work in the school?
so she was known to volunteer a lot. So how do you get over on maybe a shitty husband? You know all of the higher ups because you rub elbows with all of the important people in town. Maybe, just maybe, she has something to do with it. But this is the last part that's super strange. This Circleville Letters was actually shown on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. And after the episode aired, the show's producers receive a letter in the Circleville handwriting. So, the Circleville Letters, it was featured on a 1994 episode, the year that the letters stopped. It brought national attention, and the show's producers received the letter from the writer after the episode aired, and it warned them not to do anything that could potentially hurt or harm the sheriff.
I don't even know what to do with that.
Right. Like, why why do we care about the sheriff all of a sudden? Why are we trying to keep them safe? So, my other theory, and this is maybe a little mean, is that it was Mary.
Writing the letters to herself?
Absolutely, because she wanted to get rid of her husband. She probably hated Paul because Karen and Paul were having issues. How do you get rid of these two people really quickly? You come up with a scenario where this man is completely enraged. He starts to become paranoid. He starts to be disliked by people because every time he looks over his shoulder, he expects people are out to get him. It couldn't have been Mary because she was the first victim, right? So they were going after her first. And if you think that she's having an affair with the superintendent, you're definitely not gonna pay attention to her hanging out with the sheriff
Wow.
because she's supposed to be with the superintendent. And then how is it that the person that would have access to their home at all hours of the day, where unpredictable letters could just be dropped off, kind of makes sense that maybe the person lived really close by.
See, and that's one of the things that I was curious about is if these letters keep showing up, how is nobody seeing the letters
Mhm.
being dropped off?
Right?
I mean, really?
Nobody knew. But now Karen Sue has a life that she wants. Mary has the life that she maybe wants. We don't know. Ron is gone. The brother-in-law is gone and not able to, like, be around everybody. And now the sheriff and Mary are able to be in a relationship. I don't know. Maybe it's wrong of me to blame Mary, but it's super strange. But right, isn't this like a fucked up Bridgerton? Like, we know who you're sleeping with. We know all of the things. Tee-hee-hee, letters sent from anonymous sources. And it's just a small town in Circleville, Ohio.
It is. It's like Bridgerton if there were death threats.
So you can watch the Unsolved Mysteries episode. There's lots of podcasts that go like way more in depth on this if you want to watch it. If you have information that I messed up, misunderstood, or wrongly said, please feel free to reach out to us on social media or through email, and I will correct it. But yeah, so the Circleville Letters, super fucking spooky.
Oh my God, Carly, that was a good one. I'm going to be thinking about that. And also just a little bit more paranoid about my neighbors today.
Oh, then you're going to love another episode. I can't wait to do.
With that being said, guys, we hope that you join us for our regular feed on Wednesdays, where we're just doing more fun stuff on relationships and every day. And stay tuned for more spooky Saturdays coming up in another couple of weeks. Feel free to find us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the places. And we'd love to hear from you.
And always remember, no matter how weird it gets, we're all fine.
We love you.
Bye.